Now, I recognize in myself, I have a tendency to self sabotage. Now, that's not something that I intentionally do, but I've come to realize that I have a tendency to do it more so when things are going well. Now, that might sound a little counterproductive, and it is, but having, as I say, self awareness is a beautiful thing where you're able to recognize your behaviors and perhaps take a few steps to mitigate the wider issues that can arise. So for me, particularly, I've recognized that I have a tendency to self-sabotage when things are going well. Again, it sounds very counterproductive, but bear with me. So for instance, when I've done something to be proud of, or some, a good achievement, or whether that's I've been good to myself for a week, so therefore then I'll reward myself. And that reward for me could look like binge watching Netflix. When you have 6 episodes, but that's like 6 hours worth of TV. I think, okay, I've done X, Y, and Z. I'll sit down on the couch. I can watch this because I've done this already. So I'll sit there for potentially 6 hours in a day and watch a whole series. Now, that's not to make myself feel shameful for doing that, but when I look back and think, my days, I've spent 6 hours doing nothing. How is that then going to help keep that momentum going for what I've done well? So let's look at something else. So another thing that I realize that I do as well, I'll disengage. I won't be quite as responsive as what I have done before. Now that could be responding to emails. That could be not confirming details. I'll hold off putting myself forward. And for me, that self-sabotaging that turns up for me during those moments is, I believe, coming from a fear of not feeling quite good enough, not feeling worthy of that accolade or that attention. So then I will ruin things placed out there for somebody else for them then to reaffirm that I'm not good enough and that I shouldn't be on this platform or I shouldn't be doing this because ultimately I'm not worthy. And it's interesting how these threads have come to the surface in different ways now that I am in a position where I feel most confident. There's still self sabotage that comes up for me in different ways. And sometimes it can be a case of pushing other people's boundaries, but then also pushing them for them to make a decision for that then reaffirms my negative self belief. So there's two strands there to that conversation, I suppose. I can recognize where I self sabotage. And now that could be somebody that could come up for somebody else in different ways. So I can't perhaps liken that to some people that may be following a highly restrictive diet. Okay. You've been good all week. And you think, okay, I'll treat myself at the weekend because I've been good. Now, that treat can be something as simple as going for a bath, having a bubble bath with candles and that kind of treat. Or it could be, okay, I'll go out for a meal, I'll have X, Y, and Z, I'll have this to drink, I'll do that because I've been good in the week. And that doesn't necessarily undo all your progress from the week before, but it kind of like you could still be a little good without actually going full ball and rah. And it's just interesting how we do that and why do we do that to ourselves. And like I say, for me, I've come to realize it's those kind of thoughts where you think you're not good enough. And it's almost waiting for something or someone to say, oh, actually, I'll go with somebody else because you're being a bit flaky. And then where else have I seen those kind of self-sabotage coming up? Okay. Another example is when for 3 years now I've been running Exhale with Marie as a sole trader. Prior to that, I'd had no experience with regards to self-employment. I've always been employed. So when it came to having to do my tax return, I realized I'm the type of person that thinks, okay, I need to be in the right frame of mind to do this. I need to sit down and and I'll schedule it in my diary. So I need to come to it and I know exactly what I need to do. But in the same breath as that, where it came to my tax return, it was completely unknown territory to me. No idea, but I was determined that I could do it. I felt quite confident to do it. I just knew it might take me a few attempts to understand it. And I'm not saying now I really understand it, but I do it. But so for the past couple of years, what I tend to do is I will approach it, I will start it, and then I will like, okay, I feel really overwhelmed by this, so I need to kind of put it aside for a little bit and come back to it when I feel in a better frame of mind or where then I can have another look at it and a little more deeply in case I miss something or again, I say I'm a recovering perfectionist. So me not being able to apply myself and give it my all, then start those insecurities creeping up again, where then that feeds into that not quite worthy. And so the cycle continues. So I'm not saying my journey or my self-discovery is over. I have this opportunity now where I recognize what I'm doing and ultimately why I do that, which then allows me that scope to perhaps reconsider, to not necessarily change myself, because these are traits that are kind of long ingrained, but by having that self-awareness, I'm able to think, okay, right, I'm doing this. I really need to not watch Netflix for 6 hours and perhaps just watch 2 episodes and come back to it. Or, okay, I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z rather than just completely letting the wheels fall off and starting again from scratch. I know that when it comes to my tax return now, I know that it is a testing time for me. So I give myself 2 days and do it. Okay, for this first day, I'm going to do this. I will then save it. I will come back to it. I will check it, and then I will submit. When my fingers over that submit button, I'm like, heart's going. I'm thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I'm just doing what I believe to be right in that moment. And that's what the book says. If you believe this to be a true reflection, then you submit. And that's what I'm doing. So, and that's all you can do. Sometimes you've got to press that submit button and trust that you know enough and that you've done enough that then enables you to submit your tax return for the second year in a row and feel quite pleased with yourself, because I'm very much that kind of, you're getting that reward because you're getting that dopamine hit because you've done something, you've ticked it off your list. That is the reward by completing something. And that kind of feeds into my next thing, is where I procrastinate that much sometimes that I don't actually finish what I've started. And that's a trait that I've recognized from my teenage years. I realize in situations, which has mainly been related to education when I think about it, is that I kind of get it in my head, again, coming from that perfectionist trait within me, that if I can't fulfill it and get the best possible outcome, I would rather fail at it than complete it and it not be of a standard. That relates to when I was at college. I did a fashion design course. I spent 3 years at art college. In my final year, although I did find out I was pregnant with my eldest in my final year, I sabotaged my own final project by not finishing it. Oh, actually, I did that in my GCSE drama exam when I didn't turn up for it. Um, Again, it's this kind of insecurity that come to the forefront that then stopped me dead in my tracks. So therefore, then I'd rather not complete it than finish it. I had the same issue with my degree, whereby I got into my final semester of my final year and then felt that overwhelmed with my dissertation project. But instead of getting advice and guidance, I thought, oh, I'll defer my final year and I'll come back to do it. With the intention of going back, I did have the intention of going back, but when I was ready personally to go back, I was timed out of completing my degree. I don't think that was explained to me at the time, that you get timed out, you only have so long to go back and finish it. So when I was ready, I said, sorry, you can't go. So then I had to collect my diploma rather than my degree. So again, I'd kind of become that overwhelmed in my final year at university that I was like, okay, unless I can get a 2-1, I don't want anything less than 2-1. So I was on track to get a 2-1. And then I was just like, oh, what if it all goes wrong and I get it all wrong and I don't understand what I need to do? Okay, I'll take the time out. And then I was timed out. So I recognize that I have done that where I've become so overwhelmed by the task at hand that then leads to inaction, which then leads to me would rather fail than actually complete it and it not be quite as perfect. So I recognize it in myself as well. So I'd be interested in knowing, how does self-sabotage turn up for you? What have you recognized in your interaction, whether it be work, personal, if you are self-employed, how does that turn up in your business, relationship? How does it? Do you feel that you are aware of your own self-sabotage, or do you feel as though this is just your personality trait, this is what happens? And let me know where you think your self-sabotage stems from and how you recognize self-sabotage turning up for you. Thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure, and I'd love to hear what you think of the episode.